See, Miss Brenda's back in the building. Yeah. So this was going to be something interesting for the home group to be able to invite Miss Brenda, not because of her, but because of the idea of bringing somebody in, right, from Texas. And so we had a chit chat with the home group, and nobody else saw the challenge, right? Because they've all, or at least most of us, have heard her share in some form or fashion, and everybody with that thought was willing to do the things that are necessary to help get speakers here when they have to travel. And she had quite a travel day yesterday. She started out in McKinney, Texas, and stopped in Nashville for a little bit, and then landed in Philly and got to experience wonderful Philly Friday traffic. And her and Renee got to spend a couple hours enjoying that Philly traffic. And then to arrive and to arrive in Brigantine, where we greeted her with not exactly hot pizza anymore, and some delicious cheesecake from Sasser's, and thank you, Shannon. Exactly, it was delicious. But Brenda has been a person who over the last year has helped me, not just with her sheer honesty, but just the way she expresses her vision of God. Right, it's powerful. It's something that can move my spirit. I whenever we talk, there's always a result, and it happens with a few people, and there's laughter and. This is being recorded, by the way. Now you got it. Miss Brenda.
God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those that I will help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. My name is Brenda. I'm a recovering alcoholic, drug addict, lesbian, and full-figured woman. I'm waiting for all the folks with ADD to sit down. Hey, I'm grateful to be here, grateful for the invitation. Didn't want you to miss the last part. Some of y'all got to get on the road, so I'm going to share fast. But I would have walked all the way here to tell you that the God of my understanding has renewed and restored me to full health and wellness and love and awake and God and patience and blessings and all of it. Everything that alcohol took away, this program has given back to me. Do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. 4 most important words in the book. And yeah, listen, I had planes, trains, automobiles, 3 weeks in hell. I don't know what the hell I was doing in Nashville. I love people from Nashville. I don't know what the hell. I just couldn't get here. And the lady who drove me, God love you. I mean, we broke laws and stuff on the way in, but I'm not going to tell it because that's her story. I got sober July 3rd of 1990. I was 24 years old then. I'm 34 years sober now, and I'm looking damn good for 58. Move it. No. I didn't come here to tell you what was in the book. I came here to show you what's in the book. I want to show you by the way I present in my life today that God has done for me what I could not do for myself, what alcohol wouldn't do for me anymore. I want you to know that I have sat on Zoom with many of you, have had the privilege of meeting some of you for the first time today. I want you to know that I am better for it. I prayed for a woman about 2 months ago. And I said to her, I said to God, I may not see this woman again. I am as invested in her sobriety as I have ever been in mine. If I don't get to see her, will you please keep her close to you? And I turned around a few minutes ago and she drove 6 hours to come see me here today. I'm going to be careful about what I pray about next. You know, I've appreciated all of the contributions of all the people that have come before me. You have been both my teachers, my students, and my friends. I am better because you have done your work. I am who I am today because I have insisted on the steepest steps to the highest places. Because I'm not going to not drink and be mediocre the rest of my life. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You know, Dr. King said, if a man is 23 years old and there's something that he must do and he doesn't do it because he's afraid and he lives to be an old man, he might as well have died when he was 23 because he was never a free man after that. So I didn't come all this way, cry all those tears, take all those inventories, set up all those chairs, travel all those miles to be afraid. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But before I get, look at me, already carried away. What the fresh hell? Oh my God. Girl, work up to it. My goodness. I'd like to thank the people who invited me. Ooh, listen, I try to be just regular ranch dip, but I always show up as the guacamole. Vamos! I am a wordsmith. In my definition of that, it is a person whom God has blessed, who understands that our words are a commodity in exchange of love. And so I weigh them and I measure them before I give them away. I've met a wordsmith on Zoom. My wordsmith. And she was your first speaker today. Tomorrow's her 18th birthday. In so many important ways, I owe her my life. And that God would have made it possible for me to come all this way to celebrate her anniversary will always be one of my greatest gifts of sobriety. Thank you. And hey, listen, little Autumn, she's with a little friend inside the church, and I just walked by there, and both of these little girls, they're like, we're coloring Jesus. And I'm like, that's so interesting. And then I hear them talking to each other, and they're like, why are there so many what other says, why are there so many pictures of Jesus here? And the other one answered, I think he used to live here. So I want to live the kind of life that people can look at from the distance and say, why are there so many pictures of God here? Because I believe he lives here. I didn't come here for all of y'all. I came here for each of you to tell you that there's enough. Listen, I'd like a little shout out and the step says, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Not probably, I figured that out by myself. But to all the neighbors here, and for those of you who are listening to the recording, we're in the lawn of a church in a neighborhood. So like everybody in the neighborhood accidentally spend a day in A of A. So I just want to thank y'all and know that we have meetings here on a regular basis, and you're welcome. And look, if any of the neighbors end up having to go to AA, you already getting there with 1 day of credit. All right, yeah you are. Yeah you are. I am here today because I came to tell you that I'm living 1 day at a time. That I'm living one moment at a time. That I am accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. That I have begun to learn how to take the world as it is rather than the way I would have it. That I understand now that if I trust in God, that all things will be made well. That I can, in fact, be reasonably happy in this lifetime and supremely happy with God in the next. And so it is with a full and open heart that I've come to tell you that I have, in fact, been given enough serenity to accept those things that I can't change. That I have in this time accumulated enough courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to let it go at that. The wisdom to tell you that working the steps has changed my life. If somebody's been sober for 34 years and they're willing to go all the way to Nashville and get over here, and there's people like that experience, God has saved my life. I had to come. And then I come and find out my little girl over here has her anniversary, and then little miss I died and went away is over here. Only God can make that happen. So I want you to know that I wish I could tell you that I've worked the steps and everything's worked out perfectly. I can tell you that I need to start with this disclaimer. I have given myself permission to be enough and imperfect at the same time. I often need help to maintain a rational perspective. That I reserve the right, after 34 years of being awake, I reserve the right to cry and to make mistakes and to not have all my answers. And that it is of far greater importance to me, not the time I have here, but what I'm doing with that time now. I was sitting in my chair the whole day. I just chomping at the bit. Hurry up, share, hurry, people. Because I couldn't wait to get up here to tell you. I couldn't wait to get up here to tell you how good God is. And look, I was mad at him. I was like having a standoff when I got here. By the way, God doesn't do standoffs, so I guess it was just me with me. I'm not going to read the book to you, like I said. What happens if you take a life and you expose it? I tell people, I cry every time I share. I don't cry because I'm sad. I cry because I'm awake. I cried because God came and got me in my moment of desperation. You know what? I'm going to hook you up with some information right here. I found out that after a while, I don't have to have what I need to carry my life to God. I just have to have what I need to set it down. And God will come for it. That's the God I didn't even know existed. God will come for it. So if I'm mad at those people at work, set them down. God will come for them. Apparently, he has a trash recycling business, as Terry mentioned. I did not just call those people trash from the podium. The 10th step starts with a bad word. It's a bad word to alcoholics. Continued. Thank you, ma'am, for laughing. I love you so much. These other people, are you ever going to get to recovery? Because I swear if we'd have been as prompt when we were drinking as we are now about time in meetings, half of us wouldn't be here. Continue to take personal inventory. The problem with that is the personal part. I have the skills to take inventory. I just didn't have the skills to take my own. There's parts of me that even sober I cannot see. It was the way that life rigged the game, so I need you. If I could see all of me at any given moment, I wouldn't need you. Look, I want you to think for a minute. I want you to think for a minute to the real reason you came here. Like, I know that something is pressing on my heart. I know that there's this thing about my life that feels like it's so broken that there is no room for restoration. I feel like this thing, like I gotta carry this cross because it's what I deserve. Something brought us all here, and no matter how long I stay sober, no matter how many conferences, no matter how much time we spend in the lawn, we are not coming this way again. Not in the present circumstances. And so I decide not to miss it. And I decide that I'm going to tell the truth. And I decided, look, I'm one of those people that lives out loud in the street of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've always been that. I didn't do all my work to hide either, man. Like, I'm not that person. And I also know, listen, all the lights in AA attract different bugs. Right? Like, there's all kinds of lights here, and every light attracts different bugs. There's a guy in the back that looked like he ate a bug. Come on, sir. Come on. So all the lights attract different bugs. If you don't like what I'm sharing, like if you don't hear it, like if you don't feel God, all that means is that I'm not your light. And you're not my bug. I wish I could tell you that I had worked the steps and everything worked out the way it was supposed to. But I'm going to tell you something about the work in early sobriety. My body, my mind, and my soul should already know its way to a meeting before I need it. So on the day my father died, I wasn't trying to figure out where the nearest AA meeting was to me. On the day that my mother died, I wasn't trying to figure out how to tell people and sharing that experience, being a stranger to them. I didn't even know what we were doing. In early recovery, I thought we were just not drinking and carrying people or carrying the message or both of them. I don't know. I didn't know what we were doing. I did not know when I was working those inventories and getting in the car and traveling. I didn't know that we were working our way to the lawn of this church, to this holy moment. To this moment where I can say to God, I'm going to leave it all on that lawn today. I'm going to empty the entire contents of my heart. And look, everybody got an opinion about that. Somebody met me a minute ago when I got here, and they met me in person, and I don't know, I expected them to be kind of happy about that. But and it's so cute because they met me, they're like, you shorter than I thought. I mean, what do you do with that, dear God? I need to be taller for this lady, please. And also, this is the first time in Alcoholics Anonymous that I have shared in a t-shirt and shorts. Because they're like, it's at the outside and there's grass and you're going to look weird in your dress-up clothes. But I did take a picture of my clothes. So if anybody is offended by my presentation, I have a picture of the clothes I brought. So invite me somewhere tomorrow before my flight leaves, and I will be in that clothes. Okay, so that's good. Look, when I hate speaker meetings. Did I just say that? I did. I hate speaker meetings because, especially if the people are old, because they start, I was born in Iowa, and I'm like, oh. Then I got to figure out, like, how old are they before we get to AA? So I took a drink of alcohol and I left. I left the people who loved me. I left the people who had borne witness to my entire life. I walked away from my 6 sisters, my 2 brothers, my 27 nephews and nieces. I walked away because I took the drink, and the drink walked off with me. And all of a sudden, I'm accidentally sober. I don't know what happened. I didn't plan on it. I mean, I was dying, but I showed up in meetings, and not everybody at the meeting was happy that I was there. You're like, I can understand that. Back off. So not everybody was happy. So there's this guy that everybody was like, hey, he's like Mr. AA, and he's sitting in the lobby of the AA room. And I walked by and waved and all that. He calls me over. So I go over to him, and he says, they have meetings on the other side of the track for people like you. I learned a very important lesson that day. The lesson I learned that day is that not everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous has my best interest in mind. So I went into the meeting. I put my dollar in, and when they said if anybody had a topic for the day, I had one. I said, hey, that man outside that's like really sober, he just said that there's meetings for me on the other side of the track, and it scared the hell out of me. And now I think I can't come here. And if I can't come here, I'm going to drink again. And if I drink again, I'm going to die. But I wasn't all better yet. So I'm like, does anybody know where he lives? Only I can go from surrender to violence like that. Even now, mira, after all this time, hágame enojar, no me saque el inglés, okay? No, I was talking about y'all. And so I just kept going to meetings, and I didn't know what I was doing and all that and the other. And I'm not going to tell you my story. I'm going to tell you what a life looks like when it has been exposed to 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, properly admitted it. And sought through prayer and meditation. And what it's like to carry the message. What's the message? The message of how I have awakened. I have taken every bit of my life and my story and handed it to God. And there have been moments in my sobriety when I thought I wasn't sober enough to walk through the door that God placed before me. When my father was dying, he died on Christmas Eve of 2004. It was at 4:15 in the morning. I told my brothers and sisters to go ahead and go to sleep, that I was going to sit with him because I knew he was leaving. And I knelt by his bed, and he was terrified to die, and I put my hand on his heart, and I put the other hand over his eyes so he'd close his eyes, and I was rocking him as I'm on my knees by his bed, and all I could say was, God, help me, I'm out of prayers, I'm out of, just help me. And the thing that came from my heart when it broke open was, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, and my father died listening to the thing that saved my life when I found you. 4 years after that, my mother was dying. I was living in Florida at the time. And I had to decide whether I was going to go now or to say goodbye to her or to be able to go once she passed. She had started to lose weight, and she didn't want to eat. And my brothers and sisters called me and said, you might want to come. So I flew into my hometown, and she had a doctor's appointment the next day, and I said, Mom, tomorrow after the doctor's appointment, do you think that maybe we could drop by the grocery store? They have the pecan pies out, and also the pumpkin pie is out. Do you know if you have a Cool Whip at the house? All of a sudden, she cheered the hell up. She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, don't tell the doctor, because, you're supposed to be dying. So, pumpkin pie is probably not the thing he's going to want you to have. And so the doctor's like, how you feeling? She goes, I'm fine. I'm good. And he's like, so anyway, we went and we got it. And then I asked her, I said, have you ever had café con leche? And they said, and she's like, I haven't tasted those. So in like 3 days, my mom gained 5 pounds. Me too, but it was service work. My mother looked at me, and one of the last things she said was, you've been a good daughter. And the last thing I said to my mother before she died was, I'll see you on the other side. I didn't know when we were working the steps at the beginning and we were setting up chairs and all that, I didn't know we were on our way to those days. I didn't know. I was living in San Antonio with my wife at the time, and God said to me, we got to go. And now I have jumped off of every cliff I have ever come to. Remember that part I told you I refuse to be afraid? So something moves, I'm on it. I'm like off the cliff, because every single time I jump off the cliff in God's presence and in God's love, every single time the parachute opens. Every single time. So those of you that have some sort of cliff in front of you, go ahead. Not a real cliff. Call your sponsor. Do the work. Surrender to God. But actually, and so what's happened is that it is all surrendered. And when it is all surrendered, there's this immense amount of joy, and there's this immense amount of love, and there's a sense of belonging, of being wanted and needed and loved. You've heard that story. That in exchange for a bottle and a hangover, we have been given the keys to the kingdom. And I moved to McKinney. I said to my wife at the time, I said, hey, listen, we got to move. It's going to be good. We're going to find a great place to live, and it's going to be really good AA, and I'm going to find a job. It's going to be great, but we got to go. She came in the next day. I was working from home at the time. She came in the next day and put a lunch pail on my desk. She's like, wherever we're going, you're going to need lunch. Hey, it's good to be known, people. And so just like that, a new job presented itself. I moved to McKinney, where I live now. My 2 sisters were living there. And my sister, Mercy, has a child, Matthew. He was our little angel, and he didn't walk, and he didn't talk, and he was sick a lot of the time. But when we moved to McKinney, I went ahead and tried to find work, and I got there in September. I got a teaching job. I teach 12-year-olds. I just started my 18th year. And I stayed with Mercy for a few months, Matthew then. And in November of that year, Matthew got sick the way he does every holiday season. And he wouldn't come home this time. And I had been up there with my sister all day, and I had just gotten home. And she called me. She said, can you come back up here? They're going to unplug Matthew. And I got back to that hospital, and I opened the hospital room door to see my sister laying in bed with Matthew, saying, you can go. You can go, Mom, you'll be okay. And I stood in that doorway and I said to God, I'm not sober enough. Help me. So they come in, a few more family members came in, and we're sitting in a circle in the waiting room. And my sister from across the circle looks at me and she said, did you know? She said, when you called me and you told me you found a job in McKinney and that you were going to move here, I thought to myself, God's going to take Matthew. And he knows I can't do it without Brenda. For the past 34 years, I have made it my daily practice to make every decision in my life based on whether or not it brings me closer to God or not. I just want y'all to know there's like 7 million things in my head, because I want to give it all to you in case I don't know which part you need. So I'm just going to throw out the rest of the puzzle pieces. If any of it looks like shit you're working through, pick it up and take it home, okay? And so I just want you to know that I have been able to, by the grace of God, do all those things. There's a woman that recently saw me on a Zoom meeting. She said, I saw you in person years ago. You were going through it. You were going through it. And she goes, and look at you here today standing in front of all these people with the same sobriety date. I'm not giving it away. My greed can't have it. My dishonesty can't have it. That thing I'm not willing to do and I'm not willing to tell the truth about can't have it. Amen. See how that wind just... He like, yes. I want you to know that I come to you with some of the same wounds and scars that many of you came with. And I came all the way here to tell you that every resentment I have had has been dissolved, that every wound has closed, and that every scar has been removed. If you were to take like a spiritual CAT scan, like everything I thought I was always going to have the mark of, I was always going to have to carry, it is gone. It's not gone because I'm special. It's gone because I'm awake. Because when I have the intuitive thought to rush, to hurry, to push, I decide instead, with God's help, to step back, merge, yield, and pause. Those things are not in my nature. It is not in my nature to merge, yield, and stop. But I'm learning how to do that here. And look, I'm here to tell y'all, I wish everything had worked out and I'd gotten exactly what I wanted, but at least I didn't get what I deserved. You know, and nothing's going up. You know, I waited to get married once in my life. I knew it was a thing I would do once. So after 7 years of being married, I have spent my whole life building people, building hope, building love, building understanding. I have spent my whole life building, and that the first thing I had to figure out how to take apart and dismantle was my own marriage. Felt like a bridge too far. But those were the directions. And the only thing you need to know about my ex-wife is that she is a precious, precious child of God. And the only way I got out was that I had to gnaw off my own leg. And it's possible for both of those things to be the truth at the same time. So I came home from a trip, and my wife came to me with 2 dogs. One of them was a really old dog. Her name was Abby. She was a really smart border collie dog. I wanted her to be my sponsor, but she said she had too many sponsees already. And I loved Abby. And then the other one was a bit more rambunctious, and her name is Sophie. And I'm like, I love Sophie, right? And then Abby got to the end of it, and one of the things that I got a chance to do is put Abby in the blanket that they were going to take her away in, and I handed Abby over to my wife, and she rocked Abby for one more time in our rocker. So I get home from a trip. We were in the middle of a divorce already. I was already living somewhere else. But I came back from a trip to find that she'd left. And she took Sophie. She took Sophie. And then I didn't get to say goodbye. Those of you that are not dog people and think this is not AA, shut up. But I mean that in a spiritual way. So I'm on the floor. I'm on the floor of my house with all these years sober, with all this faith in God, with all this evidence, and I'm on the floor of that kitchen just writhing in pain, scrambling for my phone, looking for my sponsor. It was a minute till I could ask, is there something wrong with me? Because I miss Sophie more than I miss... So I would go to therapy, and I would go see my sponsor, and I'd say to them, I said, we can talk about anything you want, but Sophie's off the table. Nothing had ever been off the table. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't even say her name. And then I remember the last time I saw Sophie, she was in the back seat of the SUV, and I did what I always do, and I took her face in my hands, and I looked her right in the eye, and I said to her, Sophie, I love you. I would do that every time I left her, because one day it was going to be the last time. I just didn't know it was going to be that day. Finally, I did enough work. I had to get another therapist. God loved my therapist. She looked at me one day. She goes, based on the test results that I've run, I'm out of my depth here with you. And she sent me to somebody else, and I started to do the work with her. And one day I was talking to this kid that I'm helping, and he sends a picture, and he's got this dog in his lap, and this little 4-year-old self said, there's my dog. I'm like, whoa. And I sent him a text. I said, hey, whose dog is that? He's like, oh, it's my mom. She's trying to get rid of it. I'm on my way. And I went to pick up this little dog. Y'all better stop it. Her name is Mia. And in Spanish, that means mine. And I got her home. I drove 6 hours. I drove 6 hours to go get her, paid the people their money, put her in the car, and drove 6 hours back home. Then that's when I figured out she was car sick. This is the first time I've left Mia. She's with the babysitter. She's doing way better with it than I am. When I left her at the pet sitter out of the kitchen, right before I left was this little old man dog. And she's like, oh, someone to bother. and she didn't even look to say goodbye anymore, right? She just, and this time, the week that happened, when I lost Sophie, it was this weekend. And God's like, do you want to go back up to the northeast? And I'm like, no, I don't like none of those people. I'm not going. Because the last time I went, I came back and my dog was gone. So when Darren calls, I'm like, when's the date? And I decided to come. And tomorrow, I'm going to get on a plane and go home. And I'm going to go pick up Mia. Because I have finally stayed here long enough and worked enough steps and surrendered to such the depth that I get to have new happy endings. I went to the therapist on Thursday before I came here and I had all of this, right? And I said, you have got to help me. I cannot put these people through having to send for me and everything and the expense of all of that and then just get up there and cry for an hour. So clearly we weren't real successful with that. But I want you to know that even if my life continues to burn to the ground, I will continue to run to God with my hands covered in the ashes of what I have known. Because God, as it turns out, is an expert at ashes. That no matter what I dream about, it's not outside of the realm of God. That nothing happens outside God's grace. I would have told you that I was too far gone and had done too many wrong things to have been able to be restored. And that would have been a lie. And so I hope to God that as we continue on this work, that on the day that you don't want to is the day I want to. And on the day I don't want to is the day you do. Right? I said to everybody, we can go crazy, we just can't go on the same day. I'm gonna read you this and then get the hell out of here. Still more wonderful is the fact that we need not be specially distinguished from our fellows to be useful and profoundly happy. Service gladly rendered. Obligations squarely met. Troubles well accepted or solved with God's help. The knowledge that at home and in the world outside, we are partners in a common effort. The well understood fact is that in God's sight, all human beings are important. The certainty that we no longer need to live alone in self-constructed prisons. The surety that we are no longer the square pegs trying to fit in round holes, but we can belong in God's scheme of things. These are the permanent and legitimate satisfactions of right living, for which no amount of pomp and circumstance could ever substitute. True ambition is not what we thought it to be. True ambition is a deep desire to live usefully and to walk humbly under the grace of God. And if you haven't heard one other damn thing today, do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. That's it.
All righty. Thank you. We're going to finish with a prayer, though, before everybody heads out, please. I'm going to say our Father. But we're going to take a moment for also to acknowledge the sick and suffering and the people that were not unable to get here today because of that. Our Father.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Thank y'all. If we can give another warm thank you to the speakers.